Okay, so this is the last portion of the hack tutorial. So basically, I did, like I said before I stopped the other video, I was going to do 15 to 16 more rounds. So this is what it looks like from up top, looking at the bottom of the hat, and then we made a brim. And you might have little snaggies on the end. Don't worry about it. You can put the small ones, what have you. Keep off the praise, so it's not a big deal. But I'm just going around so you can see what the loom does. It's around the formation. All right. And so the next step, when we first started with made a knot, put the knot around here and went around one time. As you can see, it's only one group of yarn up there now because I'm using two colors. I have them both wrapped together for thickness purposes. It makes a nice little contrast too, but I use two for the tutorial. You can use one again, like I said, but I use two. So, but at the beginning of the tutorial, if you did not see it, you'll see what I'm talking about as far as it being one left on all of the pegs. And so when we first started and made the knot up there, we wrapped around one time the first time, and that was our casting on. Now, once we're done, so we can finish off the hat, we have to cast what they call cast off. And in order for you to do that, you have to follow certain steps. Now, you just make sure that you have all of your tools for this last portion. You have your hook, just in case you need to hook something off. You have your hook. And the last thing you're going to need is what we call a diamond. And so, in order for you to cast off, you're going to have to take what we call your working yarn, which you've been using to wrap around the peg so that you can knit and complete your project. And your working yarn is usually attached to your bundles of yarn. Okay. The cast on portion you cast on, we made the knot, that is in the brim here. The portions that are attached to the bundle is called your working yarn. And so what we're going to do now is, because we're done with the hat, I did my extra 15 to 16 rounds on the loom. And what you want to do is you want to have enough working yarn so that you can cast off. And so I would say about, for this particular project, because and the other thing with the casting off, not only do you want to make sure that you have enough yarn to cast off your hat, and basically you're going to be removing the hat off and then closing the top. You can't close the top when it's spread out like this. So you have to take this portion of the project off the pegs. And basically how you cast it on, you want to go around the loom and cast off. And so what you do is you make sure you have enough of your yarn, your working yarn. Just pull as much out as you think you're going to need to go through each peg. And so, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to thread this needle. You're going to thread this needle. After you pull a decent amount of yarn from the bundles, you're going to clip that off and you're going to thread it through here. And casting on, basically all you're going to do, you're going to have the yarn, you're going to thread the needle, and you're going to have yarn sticking out. And all you're going to do is take the needle to start to the right of the starting peg. And you're just going to go into each loop and pull it off. So let me go ahead and get enough of the yarn And you want enough yarn not only to go all the way around to pull it off, but you want enough yarn to close off the top of the hat. So for me, I'm gonna cut it a little bit off now, get it off camera. So basically for me, I have, this is the project right here, and I have about over a foot of yarn, and slightly, so you can see pretty much where this camera is. This is hard because this is so close to, but about this much. It's pretty long. And as you can see, once we get to the ending, if it'll ever get to the ending, I cut it off at the ends. I'm not playing on, so that's possible. But I cut it off at the end here, but I have about a foot or so of the yarn. And then my project is attached to it. So I'm going to take the end of the thread. Now you can thread the needle however you want. You can, you know, put it in your mouth, wet or whatever, so it won't fray at the ends. Now these darning needles, it's so crazy. I'm trying to angle this camera, but these darning needles, they come plastic. The plastic ones are cheaper. You can get the metal or the steel looking ones. The steel ones will probably be better because if you use the plastic enough, it'll start to fray around the edges and it'll start to pull the yarn, or even in the eye of it, it'll start to fray. And when you're trying to put the yarn through, it'll um, pull on the yarn and unravel it. So, I mean, for first project though, you should be straight, and you can buy a couple. And so you can get any of these tools to do the project. You can go to a Joann's, you can go to a Michael's, you can go to a Hobby Lobby, or you can go online, Amazon or something like that. Or even Walmart. Walmart sells a decent amount of yarn. They have a good yarn selection. Depending on which one you go to, you have to research one in your area. And so you have to do that. And so what I'm going to do is, because the loop in this needle is pretty thin. What you can do with this also is, I mean, I usually stick it in my mouth to get it wet or whatever. If you have water, you can use water. But sometimes I'll wrap it around the hook, because the hook has a thin little piece here that is thin enough. If you wrap the yarn around it, you can slide it in there and pull the yarn out the other side. But I'm going to try to do it without using the hook first, see if I can get it through there. Like I said, if you don't use your own saliva, you can use water or anything like that to try to get it through. So I'm going to see if I can get my own saliva if I have enough. And I just have to keep in mind, I just had that and just messed up. Um, you have to have good vision to do this stuff too. So I tried to do it a couple of times with my own saliva not working out. I'm trying to twist the ends and like slide it through. You can use your nails too if you have any. Kind of push it through the hole. And it doesn't matter if it frays a little bit, as long as you get both through. Alright, so it looks a little ratty, but as you can see, it still has a little bit on the side, so on this side, so I'm gonna see if I can pull it all of it through. Because it's like bundling up now, which you should not be doing. You can use the hook probably to push the rest through. I'm gonna see if I can take the hook and push it through. But usually, if you do, the little saliva trick, um, it'll work. But sometimes, as you can see here, that's why I said it's not about being perfect. You know, because stuff like this does happen. Um, and I'm making it worse. Oh, hold up. It's making it so much worse than it needs to be. See if I can get this portion through. Because I'm making the video. It needs to be ridiculous. But, and all I'm doing is to get it to unbunch. I'm just pulling it down. And then I want to get the rest of it through there. But you have to take your time with this. Like I said, this step is not really super duperly, usually not super duperly difficult. And once you get the hang of it, you'll be fine. But that's what I said, you take your time, you don't have to rush. It's not a rush thing. If you have an event, like I said, you just you have somewhere to go or something like that, then yeah, sure, But I just would prepare anyway, like make sure you have all the stuff out to do what you need to do. So you won't be frustrated trying to do something last minute. And like I said, these hats usually take no more, even though the video is relatively long. That's because I'm trying to explain to you what to do. Other than that, once you get a hang of it, the making of these hats, it doesn't take that long. Not at all. All right, with a little bit of struggle and a little bit of help from my needle, from my hook. Uh, it's still trying to be funny, but we're pulling a lot of it. All right, so I'm going to show you the needle, and you don't have to have the thread to be this long, but this is the end pieces that went through the needle. Let me put this hook down. This is the end pieces that went through the needle. My fan is on. And the other portion of that is attached to the quote unquote working. So anytime you have a trailing portion of your yarn that cuts off, is not attached to anything, that's not called the working part. The part that has the most yarn and it's usually attached to a bundle is the working yarn. This portion of the yarn, or this portion of, let me put the needle here. This portion of the needle, and because I'm video recording, it could be the opposite for you. It could be this way, but because I'm recording, this is the side that is on. This portion right here on this side is attached to the project. So this will be considered the working. So it's still attached to the project here. So this will be considered your working yarn because it's attached to the product. Now it's also, again, considered the working yarn if it's attached to the bundle of yarn you're using to do a project. But if it's cut off, or like I said, when we made the knot to put up here so you could wrap around your first, so you could cast on the first row or the first round, that wouldn't be considered your working yarn. That's just to attach this so you can take your actual working yarn, which will be attached to your bundles of yarn, to wrap it around, so to hold it in place. But anytime something is attached to your project or attached to a bundle of yarn, that's going to be your, what they call your working yarn. This is just additional for slack. So if you need this to finish closing up the hat, you have a little bit of extra. That's all that is. And so I'm going to go ahead and start casting off now, since I was finally able to get that through the needle. Now, again, so when you start to cast off, it's exactly how you cast on. You go to the right of the peg. So what you want to do is, and you use, like I said, these little notches right here are really good because you can slide the needle down. You can slide, you can use it to guide you to slide down and grab the yarn. And I know that looks like I'm fumbling, but like I said, I'm on the back end of this camera trying to figure out where stuff is located. But if you can go down like this and pull out the yarn away from the peg a little bit, or you can go underneath, whichever one is comfortable for you. But you want to go underneath both. If you have two pieces of yarn that you're using, like I have two yarns for thickness, you have to go underneath both, okay? And this might not be underneath both, but I'm just giving you an example. But you want to go underneath it, and hopefully I'll be able to do this on camera without anything falling apart. I'm going to try to slide it underneath. And it looks like the same color of the yarn. And I'm just doing this like this for usually I'll go down, whatever. Sometimes I go up, whichever one I feel comfortable with, honestly. And so let's see if we have both pieces of yarn. I don't see the blue, so let me look because my lighting, as usual, is always bad. I don't see the blue one, and nope, I didn't have the blue. I'm gonna go underneath the blue. I know I'm doing this off camera, but I just want to make sure that I can see it. So if you look at it, you'll see that the yellow and blue is on top of the needle. And all you're going to do is pull this, the working yarn, all of it really through that hole. And then you're going to take it once it gets to the end and make sure it's not on the peg here, the anchoring peg. You're just going to take it off. I know this looks kind of messy, but you want to take it off. Okay? And you can kind of tighten it as you go along, but that's what you're going to do. Now, and then you go around and do the same thing with everything else. Basically, you're going to go around and do it with all of them. And I'm going to show again. You go into the yarn. You can go underneath it or you can go above it, as long as you get it away from the peg. Okay? And then you're going to pull both your working and your extended yarn because it's just all of it is on the same needle. You're going to make it come down. Make sure that it doesn't go way down here and stuff like that. Your yarn will do that. You have to watch your yarn. Make sure it doesn't get caught on anything else. And once you get it down, you're okay to take it off. Okay? And so you have two of them off. And this is what you call casting off. And so we're going to do another one. All right. Again, forgive the noise on the outside. I live on top of the highway. So ambulances are always running all the time. Just make sure you pull your yarn away from the peg if it gets really crazy. And because I'm trying to, like I said, because I'm trying to navigate this camera and do this as well, make sure two up there it is. So you're going to take your yarn and go through. And once you're done, pull it off. And then you have another one. And if you look here, you'll start to see that like the top is forming. You got to pull it together. You pull the yarn together. And this is so large or overly amplified, but you get a better impression of it. the more that we go around. All right, so do the other one. Pull the yarn away from the peg. Make sure you have both. If you're doing two, I just dropped that. Sometimes that happens, but you just keep on going. Pick it up, keep it moving. And make sure to both meet. And then you're just going to pull your yarn all the way through. And you can usually use your needle, your darning needle to take it off the peg too. I'm just taking it off just this way so that you can get an idea. And like I said, once you get comfortable with doing this, you'll just, because, and when I say usually I take it from underneath, the reason why I do it is because once you do that, you pull your yarn through, it'll just going to slip off the peg. But because I'm holding this freaking, and you just slip it off like that. Or you can lift it with the darning needle, but because I'm trying to navigate this camera, I can't do it like that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around. And I'm going to get that going so that I show you how to do this. We're running Saturday. We're running. Oh my God, man. We're on this highway, so. And the only reason why I'm not stopping the recording is because this really doesn't take any time to do casting off. And like I said, this is how I usually do it. And I just lift it off and I pull the yarn through. So make sure you don't have the yarn on the peg or anything like that because you want everything to go up. And as you can see, it's starting to form a little bit into a hat. And that's basically how you do it. But like I said, because I'm holding the camera sitting a certain way, um, you know, trying to navigate that. But again, make sure both, if you're using two strands, make sure both of the strands is coming in. And see how it gets stuck up here on the peg? You just lift it up and make sure you keep your stuff together. And again, this is called casting off. And you do it all the way around until you're done. And I like this casting off because it's so easy, simple. You know, I wish you could do the knitting as easy and simple as that. I mean, it's relatively easy to knitting. It's just, casting off, you just loop it and come automatically off the peg and just that simple. Um, almost done. We got a few more pegs to go. A few more pegs, not many. few more. And remember, when you get to the end, you'll know when you get to the end because the peg to the left of the anchor peg, and that's the peg that you started when you cast on, and when you put your excess work yarn on it so that your yarn won't get in the way. And basically, this is your, well, I'll tell you, terrible camera person. But this peg right here, once you get to the left of that, that means that you're done. So we're almost done. Almost done. And you can tighten up the hat as you take off, as you cast off. You can tighten, pull the yarn together, or you can wait until you completely cast off and you can pull it tight, tighten it together then. And really, once you completely cast off, because you're pulling it as you go, and as you can see, you see how it's coming together. It's coming off, but it's coming together. So you pull it. It's already going to be semi-closed at the top anyway, but to close off the hole that is still going to be there, it's not going to be like a large one, but it still has a little bit of an opening. What I'm also going to do in this tutorial is teach you how to make like a little peak at the top if you want to, or just if you want to keep it closed, just the way that we're doing it now. You can do both. Sometimes you might not like the way, sometimes I don't always like the way I close the hole at the top. So to cover up for that, I put a little poof up there. And again, like I said, I donate, not necessarily donate to a certain, but I do make these hats and scarves and I give them to children and some people, that are adults, if their heads are small enough and they want one, I'll give them to adults as well. Because once wintertime comes, and these things come in handy. They do come in handy. So if you get a decent amount made, before it starts to really get cold. I'm trying to keep this in frame. I'm not doing a good job. I'm afraid I'm knocking the camera. So, all right, so we're almost done. Almost done. I got 3 more pegs to do, as you can see. That's it, and I'll be done. Let me fix this because I don't think I want to both holes. I'm trying to stop my progress. There's something to try to improve and make progress. I'm trying to do that right now. I'm trying to pull it in so that I can re-enter the little hole that I took it off of because I didn't go through both of the yarn. Pay for that. The this, and so you have to take your time, stuff like this, because you made like a little boo boo, snafu, and this is what will make you pay for it. So please, 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 please take your time when you're doing something like this. And like I said, usually it's not that serious, but for some reason with the recording, it needs to be crazy or whatever. I'm getting together off camera. Bear with me. I can try to get this get this stitch right as close to right as possible. It's not going to throw the head off too much, but it's trying to be weird. And finish with the tutorial. And I don't do too much editing or anything like that. I just don't. Um, so let me see. You know, people are like, why are you putting this in the video? It's like, I just don't. I don't do it. So it looks like it's trying to do right now. I don't know. So I have to kind of do something extra. But we're gonna see if I can continue to cast off. So I'm gonna put this back. It still should be able to close, but I didn't go fully through a stitch, so it was trying to make me pay for that. So that's why I said take your time. Make sure you go through both. If you have two, especially if it's thin yarn like this, because if you don't, and you miss a stitch or you stick the needle in the wrong place or something like that, it'll fray the yarn and it'll make it kind of look bad, and you don't want to have to start it. But you're pretty good at like going back and kind of fixing the mistake enough to the point where it won't be noticeable. So you get to that point, just be mindful that when you're casting on and casting off, that everything cast on properly. Make sure you loop all your loops and everything like that. And you take your non-working yarn off. Now, so everything is off. So I'm pulling this through out of the loom. So the loom is empty. It's empty, right? And this is the project right here. And so I'm taking it to the very last loop, putting all the yarn through, come through properly. And as you can see, and what I usually do is I put my hand through it. And you see my hand is here, and I just tightly, I just kind of like pull it around. And you see how it kind of goes then backwards. When I tighten it, I pull it towards me. So it'll make a hat type shape. See that? Just kind of pull it towards me. And the noise in the background, I have disrespectful people that live around me. And so they always want my attention. And it has nothing to do with me. And these are not young people, these are old people. But I always want me to have they want my attention. You don't engage each other like that. But, all right, so I'm going to sit the hat down. And it's like I said, for a little baby or something like that. But as you can see, trying to get it to be so close to the camera, so you can see it. Um, but it has like a little, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, so you can see how it turns, and it has like a little hat. Now this would be good for a toddler or something like that. Um, 3/4 toddler, and you can still pull the string so it can close better. Use that. Didn't want to do, but at any rate, pull it off some stuff. But you just continue to close the top until it's like tight enough. Now, if you want to, and like I said, slide this back a little bit more. See a cute little hat with a little brim, nothing spectacular. And you can fix it, like I said, you can mold it, put your fist in it, put your hand in it to kind of mold it to make it kind of stick out. Now, either you can close off the top here, as you can see, it has a little hole. You can pull it more tightly, but you see how it has these little pieces right here? You might not want that because of the fact that you want it to fit on your head in a round way. So what you can do is leave it open. You can open it a little bit more and leave it open. And then what I do is I just pick random spots and I go in and around, in and around. I work my way around and then I close off the top. So you could do it that way and just go around and around and around like you did with the loom until you get close to the middle and then you can close off the top. Or you can do, and forgive me, like I said, I live on top of the highway. Or, like I said, I just turn it in like this so it can go down. And I apologize again about the noise, but I'm not re-editing. And like I said, I have unpleasant people that live around me. So, you see, is what it is. And so, what I want to do, what I like to do to keep it open is I'll push it open like this. And don't worry about the phrase like that. You'll get that. That'll be taken care of. I like to keep it open at the top. And then what I'm going to show you how to do is make a little poof. You are going to have to close it a little bit more. But once you make the poof for the top, you'll understand what I'm saying. So basically, we're going to set this to the side. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the extra yarn that you have here, and you're going to pull from the bundle. I say when you pull from the bundle, you're going to wrap it around your hand. I say probably about, for this particular hat, probably about, maybe you want to wrap it around your hand about maybe 10 times. And it has to be a nice little size. So when you wrap it, make sure that you leave a little bit dangling, before you wrap it again, so that it'll have something. It may look like this. Okay. So that means that you got to start way back here from the bundle. Pull, 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 pull. Pull, 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 pull. So this is your working portion. And so pull enough, pull enough, pull enough. And you can either wrap it like this, wrap it like this, wrap it like this. Just keep wrapping. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut it where the loops are at the bottom. Let me get my scissors. And you're just going to cut at the loops at the bottom. See that? And it's going to make some strings. And you keep going until you feel like you have enough. So you're going to make like little strings like this. And what you want them, and the reason why I said you want them to be long enough because you're going to grab it like this in the middle. And we're going to tie it a certain way, and then we're going to stick it in the middle. So this is the first set of strings. I call them strings, but it's yarn. And I'm going to say just do it a couple of times until you have a nice thickness, a nice amount. And I'm going to pull some more off camera, but I'm going to start, like I said, pull, 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 and you pull from the bottom of your bundles. And like I said, you can do this. You don't have to have two colors. You don't have to have two colors at all. And this way it doesn't fall. You don't have to have two bundles at all. You want to make it enough so that you can wrap it. So, and make sure it's long enough so you have a decent length. And make sure it's long enough so you can have a decent length. So you want it to kind of hang like that. You don't want it too tight to your hands. And just make it long enough. And you're going to cut where the hoop or the loop is at the bottom of your hand. And then you'll have enough to put on the top of the hat. So we're going to cut again the bottoms of all of these. Where the loop is, you can just cut. Right. Right. And some are going to be slightly longer than the other, whatever, and that's fine. And then we cut these already. And you're just going to add it to. And if it's too, some things are too short, don't worry about it. You can pull those off. So now you have this here, okay? And probably maybe if you want to do one more, you can. And so do one more. And I'm just going through them because it's like this. It's like going through your hair, pulling out little stragglers or whatever, right here, whatever. Just go through it to kind of make it kind of as even as possible, even though a lot of it is not. So I'll get my yarn again. And just be mindful of how much you have in a bundle because if you don't have enough in a bundle, you might not be able to do the little hoop. And then you might need to use another color. So say for instance with me, I have like a yellowish, mustard yellowish blue kind of color. And if I don't have enough to finish for my poof, then I might want to use white or something like that at the top, you know? Just, be as creative as you want to be. You know? And some people don't mind cookie colors placed together. I'm not one of those people, but you can add whatever color. You might want to add purple. I don't know. But you can do that if you choose to. If you run out of yarn, but you have to make sure you keep up with your yarn. So I'm cutting some more, and I think this should be enough. And like I said, you don't have to do this, and you don't have to do as much. So I'll cut some more. I'll cut some out. So we put them all together, and this is what you have. You have this here, and I'm holding it in the middle. Okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to tie it knot. Okay. Now you can tie the knot around like this. Now that's why it needs to be long enough. It might not all go through, so there's another way that you can do it if you can't do it that way. So I'm going to see if I can. And you can also pull it down a little bit and then tie it so that you can have enough that will go through. And I would recommend that you kind of twist it like that so that it'll go through the hole when you're trying to do the knot. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be. And see the knot in the middle is a nice size. And you might think, oh, but it's going to be a knot, but you can flatten it so it won't be anything that's poking you in the head. What you want these little frillies right here. And so what I usually do is I turn the hat inside out. Turn the hat inside out. And make sure you keep your working yarn here because you're going to need that to still kind of close things up. So don't get that confused. And remember, your working yarn is attached to your darning needle. So you're going to need that. So you put that to the side. And we'll pick that up in just a second. But what I do is I put this through here like that. And as you can see, if I can turn it around without it falling, this is what it's going to look like coming out. Now you have this piece here, that's your darning, that's your working, this part right there is your working yarn. And all you have to do to get that down is to pull that for your working yarn. And that's if this yarn is attached to your needle. And then you have this here, right there. Now to get it to close a little bit more, you can pull it. You use your working yarn and you can pull it closer together. Let me see if I can get this right. So I can show you better. You want to move your working yarn out of the way. You don't want it mixed up with that. Frills. And you have the other option of just closing it a little bit while it's like this. And take your working yarn and just close it a little bit more. You don't want to close it too much because, like I said, you have these little things poking out. Close it just enough. And then you can put this, leave it upside down though, but you can put this in back. And so it's still going to be a little bit wide or whatever. Don't worry about it because we're good to close it now. Make sure you hold on to and make sure that, like I said, it's flat enough so it won't poke in the head really badly. And what you do, this stuff is soft, so, and all you're going to do is, because this is a knot, because that's a knot, you can sew into any portion of that. You can sew into any portion of that. I'll tell you, the ambulance is running back to back. It is Saturday here, and it's raining, and they just run and run and run. But at any rate, make sure all your frillies is down. And all you're going to do is take, and I wish that it would show better, but you're going to stick your needle in any part towards the very top of the hat. Even though it's turned, upside down, you still have the top of the hat, which is here, okay? You can stick your needle in anywhere at the top, and just you want to connect it to any piece on the ball, okay? So I'm trying to take the needle through, maybe grab the ball a little bit. I'm trying to turn it so you can see the hat. And sometimes I do it the opposite way, but this is just, so when you turn it back out, the frillies will be sticking out. So any part of the ball or the knot that we just made, you can grab and just put the yarn in any spot of that knot that we just made and pull through, and this will automatically attach the knot that we just made that has the frilly on it. It'll automatically give it just a second. Um, cool. Yeah, type of problems today. We don't have this many problems because it really is not that hard to make these. I'll just add in the frilly because it's cute and If you don't like the way you close the top, you have another option. So it might have to do it the other way because the needle, in this way, so you have to have patience doing this. You have to have a lot of patience because if you don't, you will get totally annoyed quickly. So for whatever reason, my this is what my work needle is pulling up like this, and so I don't know why it's doing that. So I have to take it out. So I'm gonna take it back through the whole. So if you ever get stuck like that, just take it back through the stitch that you have it in. You don't get overly panicky or anything like that. Just take it back through to take it out. If something like that. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So what I'm gonna have to do, we're gonna turn it back so that I don't have to go through this. Because really I didn't want this video to run this long. So what you're gonna do is, since it's acting cray cray, we want to just do it from the top. So you can put the bottom part of the knot in the hole, okay? And then all you're going to do is just go around. So this part of the hat, you just take any of the stitch. So you got two. Usually I go underneath. If I use two strands, I go underneath. And then you're just going to attach it to the knot. Okay? You're just going to attach it to the knot. Make sure the frillies are out. You don't want your frillies stuck in the yarn. Make sure all your frillies are out. And all it's going to do is attach the knot to the hat. Okay. You see that? All right. And so then you just go through another one of the stitches. And it doesn't have to be like a whole bunch of it, just one or whatever. And you're going to go through it. And you're going to go through the knot. And you want to make sure that the knot is not sticking too far up. So as you go around, just make sure you tuck it down a little bit. Go through another portion of the knot and you pull it through. Pull it through, pull it through. And then it's going to attach some more to the hat. And then you just go around all the way around. Make sure your frillies are out though. The frillies out, because that's what you want to show. You don't want the knot to show. You want the frillies to show. And then you're going to go into the hat again. You have a little stitch that you have. And you might go through more than one. It's not a big deal. Sometimes the yarn gets a little stuck. You just pull it a little tautly and it should come through. All right, and then you're going to go through the knot again. Pull thread through. And the more that you go around and the more that you do, you tuck the knot in and the knot is going to stay more. So you grab a little bit more yarn and make sure that you circle your hand and keep your frillies out as much as possible. And you go around the knot. You find another portion of the knot. Make sure that you tuck it down as you go along. And you pull all that through. And like I said, sometimes the yarn gets stuck. You just kind of pull it best you can. Keep your frillies out. Put one in there. And then you're going to go again into the hat. You get at least 2 stitches. through. All right. And then you go through the knot again. Don't have to be anything spectacular. And just keep in mind, you're not trying to be perfect. Just trying to make you a cute little hat, you or your children or whatever. Whatever. That's all you're doing. You're not trying to be perfect. So don't get too mad at yourself if you don't get everything right. You can rewatch this video a trillion times. All right, we're going to go through the stitch in the hat. Pull the stitches in the hat. Pull the yarn through, and then go back to the knot. And we're almost, as you can see, we're almost done with the knot. So we're going to the knot. Put the stitches into the knot, and just make sure it's in the knot and not the frillies. That's easy to do, because if you pull the yarn on top of the frillies, you might close off the frillies and it might look weird. So do that. All right, almost closed. Go to the hat. Go to the hat. We're going to go through some more stitches, and so it doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes, like I said, the yarn gets stuck. You just got to kind of finagle it through. Because for some reason, the yarn is sort of like hair sometimes. Like if you pull it, it knots up by itself. I don't know why it does that, but just the way it's made, the material wise, um, it does that sometimes. So don't get frustrated. You just have to take your time to get it out of there. All right, so let me see how much more we have to do. So I pulled that through. So right now what we're looking at, I have a little bit more to do right here. So I'm going to put it in, because we went through the knot already. So I'm just going to go and thread some of the hat. And I try, like I said, I try to stay as close to the top as possible, because you want it to look, you don't want the yarn to be way down in the middle of the hat. And then you're pulling from there. You don't want that. And so I'm just going to try to keep it. Come on. Thread through the knot. And thread through the knot. Right. And we're going to go through the hat a couple more times. Unless this one ends it, we'll have to see. And when I say ends it, what I mean is, because you see it's still like a little gap right here. You want to close that off, because if you're outside or something like that, you don't want to be cold. You don't want to be gaps in your hat where you're freezing. And you're like, why is there an opening in my hat? And it's because you didn't close it or end it off properly. So I'm going to the knot again. And I can still get access to the knot because we don't have it closed completely. It's still a hole. Push that down, and then I'm going to go through more stitches of the hat. And this also closes the hat down in a circular motion too. Like I said, just make sure you keep the knot down as much as possible. I'm going to go through a couple of stitches in the knot. Closing around it. And then let me see if we have this small little gap. So I'm just going to go through this portion here. And then what we're going to do with the final stitch, we're going to put it in the knot, but we're going to take it down in the hat. So, and just be mindful when you stick it down, put your hand down in the bottom of the hat, like I have here. And you can turn the hat out. It's up to you. Because what you're going to do is you're going to have to tie a knot to tie it off. So That's the last of the stitching. What you can do to tie the knot, because you see the knot is down here, you can go into it like this, all right, because you're going to tie it off. You go into it like this, and because you still have working yarn, all you're going to do is take it behind. You're just going to make a little a tie or like a little knot. You take it underneath, and then you pull it to, and it should form it to like a little knot. You got to, like I said, you got to finagle this yarn because it will knot it by itself before you want it to. So let me take it off and see if I can. Hopefully it'll knot like I wanted to. And then it won't knot on its own. Sometimes it just locks up with itself. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like it gets caught in some of the fray and it just makes its own like knots. I have no idea. But yarn is very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So if you can get it loose, a little bit difficult to getting it loose. Um, that'll be good so you can tie it into a knot. If not, you'll have to another way to tie it. And it close properly. And I'm being quiet because it's just crazy how the stuff knocks up. And some yarn does that, you know. You have some really soft yarn that is not as coarse, I guess is the right word, that will knot up pretty good. Um, I mean, not knot up pretty good, but won't knot up. So, and just remember too, and I think also what my issue here with this is some of the phrase, that stuff down here on the bottom, and I sent the needle through. So just keep that in mind. Just try to keep the phrase, well, not the phrase, but the proof that we use, the little proof that we're using. Try to keep that. Oh, I'm not going to try to go back on it. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know why it's doing that. So, so I want to go ahead because I do want to finish this. This video is already run pretty long. But just like I thought, some of the phrase got stuck at the, not the phrase, but the poofy yarn got stuck at the bottom. So it's causing a problem. But, um, but like I said, you know, because the bottom, nobody's going to be looking at it but you when you take it off, and you're only going to be wearing it anyway to like, for, you know, the child is going to maybe wear it to school or something like that. It's not going to be like something serious. And so underneath here, it's kind of weird because I tried to tie it into a knot and it didn't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is, for the sake of the video, usually it doesn't end up like this, but like I said, this yarn has a coarse texture to it. So sometimes, just like here, if you, for some reason, if you move it a certain way or you try to tie it or do something to it, it just knots up and it's knotted up underneath here somewhere. But to tie it off, to make sure that it's nice and tight, I'm going to run through the knot that we had, the bottom portion of the poof. I'm going to run through just another portion of it that's kind of solid, which is on the side, it's a little bit more solid. And then all we're going to do is go behind, because all of it is the working yarn. All of it is the working yarn. What you want to do is just go behind this out. Go in between, like I said, because I'm using two strands, you want to make sure that you go through all of it and then just pull it into a knot. That's how it's supposed to be done right there, but for some reason it knotted prior to. Did you see the knot? And then all you have to do with this, because it's so tight, usually when you have it tight like this, it doesn't come out, but just to solidify, make sure, you can, I mean, you have a decent amount of yarn left over, so if you want to add something, you can. But for the most part, when I tie it twice, usually I'm good. But I'm going to clip off of the portion of the yarn that's attached to my needle, because I don't need it anymore. I don't need the needle anymore. And what you can do is just make sure that it will stay and nothing comes off. Even though you've already tied a knot, you can tie an extra knot. And just make sure both of the pieces of yarn go through. And just make sure that you tighten it again. And then what you can do, and sometimes I even tie it. I might tie it, extra. I don't have to do it here. But once you tie the knot again, then you can finally clip right down, maybe down to there. Not too far, but you can clip down to there. And then you can turn it finally. Like I said, your little mistakes and stuff like that, you don't worry about it. And you really don't feel this. It's not, you're not going to refill both of them. You're not, and once you wash it multiple times, you should be straight. But you have your frillies here, and you have a cute little hat. Now I know that this video ran kind of long, but like I said, I like to explain things so that you get it. I think it's worth the time to listen to it the first time, and you can always go back and listen to more. This probably will be 4 parts now because this has ran a lot longer because I had some issues and things like that. But and like I said, you can, a child can wear it, you know. And like I said, as far as, because you see how it's relatively short or whatever, and I know with my camera you can't really see like the size properly because I'm looking at it with my camera, but it is pretty tiny. It's not it's not super large. Um, and my hands are tiny, so it's not super large. But if you want, like I said, if your child has a lot of hair, all you have to do is add more of these rows here before you close it off, of course. And you can add as many as you like. You can add, like I said, I did 15 more after I did the brim. I did about 10 to 12 rounds for the brim. Then we folded up the brim and connected it. And then we, started the hat from the bottom here. And from the bottom here, once you connect the brim, you can go up to how many you want. Sometimes I do 20. Um, if I'm making a hat, but I know that I take my hair out, I might need some extra room. You can do 30, and then you can put a poof in it, or you can close it at the top, like I was going to start to do. You can do however you want to do it. But as you can see, it's not a lot of gaps poking out of it or anything like that. You have your frillies. You can wear it to whatever side you want to wear the frillies, and it's washable. And if you don't wear it after a while, your child grows out of it, you can give it to somebody, you can donate it, or you can just make hats to donate. Like I said, I give them out every day on my birthday. My birthday's in the winter month, so it's usually cold, and so I just give out hats and stuff for the children in the neighborhood. And like I said, adults that if their head is small enough, or sometimes I make something larger because it's different sizes to the tool so that I use to knit it. But I'm not gonna talk too much any longer. This is the hat. And like I said, I know that this ran long, but like I said, I like to be thorough. And what I'm going to start to do is make projects that the video won't be as long. Just different colors, different sizes, scarves, and things like that. And if you need to remind yourself on how to cast onto a loom, you can start with the first video and finish with this video or finish with the last portion of the video. But at any rate, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. If you have any ideas, you can leave those in the comments as well. And again, thank you so much. And give it a thumbs up, a like, or a share, and subscribe, or all three. Take care.